Norfolk police knocking down the door of another drugs den in Norwich. The latest target of Operation Gravity, this flat's just off Sussex Street. Inside, officers find digital scales, cling film, this knife and wads of cash. They also suspect that drugs were being carried in everyday items, like this tube of Pringles. The raid this lunchtime came after weeks of intelligence gathering.
We're seeing unprecedented levels of violence with Operation Gravity. We know that there's, across the county over recent months, been an increase in drugs-related violence, stabbings. That level of violence is completely disproportionate and unacceptable, and it's something that won't be tolerated in Norwich or the county of Norfolk and will be dealt with very robustly. And today what you've seen is a statement of intent in that will not be tolerated.
Today, 2 teenagers from Surrey were arrested on suspicion of possessing Class A drugs with intent to supply, and 2 men from Norwich were also arrested in connection with drugs offences. And in all, more than £1,000 worth of heroin and crack cocaine were found in a matter of minutes. The force's crackdown on drug dealing started in December. It's seen more than 100 arrests and led to the seizure of around £10,000 of Class A drugs and £25,000 in cash, as well as a series of weapons. Detectives say that most worrying is the issue of cuckooing, where dealers, often from London, exploit addicts by taking over their homes and using them as temporary bases.
Any drug dealing activity involves a lot of people who are vulnerable in many different ways. We need to be engaging with our safeguarding partners, moving young people away from crime. What is it that makes this attractive to them, and why are they being forced to do it? Safeguarding and protecting vulnerable people, particularly around cuckooing. There are people with mental health issues, addiction issues, who are absolutely being exploited by these ruthless, unscrupulous people.
Investigations at the flat will continue, with officers ready to look through every part of it for more evidence. The 4 suspects are now in custody, the latest to be taken off Norwich's streets in our forces' war on drugs.
It's not just the money that's being made out of drug dealing, it's the misery that it brings to local communities and local lives. This is nothing other than a money-making venture. We have seen the high levels of violence. It's not just the here and now of the dealing in the street. The impact of this is unacceptable.
Mark Summers, Mustard TV, Norwich. With a nudge and a little poke, at 4:57 p.m. today, a new life entered the world. The first of 5 falcon chicks that should appear over the next few days. The hatchling was born at NBC Environment in Snetterton and will join the team there soon as part of the company's pest control services.
I really enjoy the breeding of the falcons, so been like expectant fathers this afternoon. So yeah, youngsters just hatched, so quite pleased about it. It's quite nerve-wracking because you're always worried about the chick getting stuck or getting exhausted when it's actually pipping, around the shell to finally hatch. So when they do finally break through, it is quite a relief.
The chick and its soon-to-be brothers and sisters will join the more than 130 birds at NBC as part of their breeding programme of both falcons and Harris hawks. The proud parents of today's chicks are Dad Marley and Mum Mojo, who's already laid again and is incubating a further 5 eggs. Their role in the air is to help control bird populations for customers, mostly scaring away seagulls and pigeons under a special general licence that's been granted to the company. And as TJ here can demonstrate, it's their speed and agility in the air that makes these birds so effective against others who encroach on customers' land.
In terms of the birds within the UK, they all come with a degree of protection. So we're looking for a green way in which we can redress the balance between the business and nature. We're looking to change the birds' behaviour. We're not looking to eradicate them, we're just looking to move them onto an area where the birds that we're trying to move on will feel safe, but also in a way that it protects our clients' businesses.
They're amazing birds, the shape of them, sickle shape, eyesight 7 to 8 times better than ours, incredible eyesight. And the birds are so highly developed, they actually have valves in their nostrils to control the intake of air into their lungs. So in a full stoop, hitting 120, 125 miles an hour, to flying in a straight line at 40 miles an hour doesn't affect the breathing whatsoever. They really are highly developed birds.
The work at NBC continues to come in, and just recently they've had to hire more staff to deal with a new contract with the MOD at 6 airfields in East Anglia, where their birds will be used to scare wildlife and prevent bird strikes. And with offices from Essex to Edinburgh, today's chicks will soon be joining many others in the air. Mark Summers, Mustard TV, Snetterton.
Bananas, B-A-N-A-N-A-S.
They're the exotic yellow fruit that we in the UK eat 5 billion of every year. But could bananas soon be extinct? Yes, unlikely though it may seem, they're facing an uncertain future because of a new strain of a fungus that they had been immune to, Panama disease. Well, here in Norwich, tucked away in an office above the Playhouse, we've got the experts. Alistair Smith's the international coordinator of something called Banana Link. He works with growers and farmers around the world and says it's a serious threat.
It's a new strain of that disease which has started to wipe out plantations in East Asia in particular, and then it suddenly leapt to Mozambique in Africa, it leapt to the Middle East, Jordan. The big threat, of course, is if that arrives in the Americas and the Caribbean, where the vast majority of the world's traded bananas come from.
Pretty much all the bananas we eat are known as Cavendishes, and they are now vulnerable. It's news that could be heartbreaking for those around the world involved in growing and selling them. For 20 years, Banana Link's been raising awareness of the poor living and working conditions faced by plantation workers. Their team leads the way in helping them deal with the new disease and trying to find replacement crops.
For several million people whose livelihood depends on it, mainly plantation packhouse workers, but also small farmers in Caribbean and Latin America, they have no alternative. And if they're dumped overnight because their variety fails, then what alternatives do they have? Very few at the moment.
Alistair says on average we each eat a crate of bananas a year. So what would life be like without the fruity phenomenon?
They're very nutritious. A lot of people do like them, easily to port and transport, easy to eat, throw away the skin.
Well, Weight Watchers, so can't eat sweets, so I eat bananas and apples, and I get bored of apples, so bananas are never depressing.
I don't know what I'd do if they went. I'll have to slum it and have orange, I think, something like that.
Yes, of course, we have no bananas.
It's the tune that caught the public's imagination during the food shortages of the Second World War. Today, though, with no fungicide to fight Panama disease, we may soon have to start thinking of replacements for our beloved bananas. Mark Summers, Mustard TV, Norwich.